Hey everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. Something peculiar is going on between Donald Trump and French President Macron. A bunch of my subscribers had emailed me asking me what is the reason behind this newfound relationship. It's actually pretty funny. RT picked up on this and they call it the French connection. Macron and Trump's political bromance blossoming after the Syrian strikes. They're attributing it to the fact that the French and the Brits joined hands with the United States in attacking Syria, so now they've got this really tight relationship, but there definitely is something spiritual going on behind the scenes. And so I want to take you all the way back to, let's see here, August 2016. So before Trump was elected president, he was really pulling on those evangelical roots, saying that he wanted to close the gap between church and state. And one of the first matters of business which he accomplished was getting rid of the Johnson Act. So if you check out the Johnson Amendment here, it was a ban on 501c3 charitable organizations like churches from engaging in political advocacy. And so now they can. I believe that Johnson Amendment has been abolished by Trump. So he is definitely blurring the lines between church and state, and he is definitely not finished. As I showed you in my Pope video, if you haven't watched that, I'll put a link right up here in the right-hand corner of the screen. You can see that even though the Pope has supposedly had hard words for Trump, I think they are definitely both in the same camp, because there was definitely some occult symbolism when these two individuals met. Well, let's fast forward a little bit forward from 2016 here. We'll go to 2017. May 17, 2017. I believe this was near Macron's election to the French presidency. The Pope urges Macron to strengthen France's Christian roots. He has a publicized message to Macron saying, "I pray that God support you so that your country, faithful to the rich diversity of its moral traditions and its spiritual heritage, marked also by the Christian tradition, may always endeavor to build a more just and fraternal society." So this is the public message that we've had, and I'm sure that Pope Francis had some private words to President Macron, because in 2018, and now April here, this was April 11th, the French president faced a lot of backlash because he called for closer ties between church and state. Exactly the same thing that Donald Trump was calling for. That's interesting. And so specifically, what was the event here? He had this conference among many Catholic bishops, I believe, and it was all about how they wanted to try to reverse the damage that has been done between church and state as it relates to Christianity. Now, he is Catholic, and I think about 55% of France's population identifies as Catholic, although they don't necessarily practice it daily or weekly. So what I find interesting about here is we've got two people here, and they're vowing to blur the lines between church and state. They both have some type of rapport or relationship with the Pope. And this has been on my mind for quite a while, and I never did a video on it because I can't say for sure whether this is prophetic or not. But I want to turn your attention to Revelation 17, specifically, let's see here, verse 12, talking about one of the beasts of Revelation that has 10 horns. This is where the angel is providing the interpretation to some of the symbolism. And the angel says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast." Now, what I thought was interesting about this verse was they don't have a kingdom just yet, but they will receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. And so there's been a big trend recently about the rise of the outsiders, the rise of political outsiders. And what Macron and Trump share is not necessarily just their zeal to close the gap between church and state, again, for both of them, but Macron is also listed as an outsider. Donald Trump, also listed as a political outsider. And in fact, you're seeing, just what this article says here, you've got the rise of a lot of these political outsiders, a lot of these people that are fresh on the stage. Even the Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, I believe his name is, in Saudi Arabia. Although he had a line through the kingship, I mean, he's relatively new on the scene with a lot of his newfound power. And even he is doing some very peculiar things with the Catholics, like meeting with them and even buying that Da Vinci painting for a record $450 million, something I covered a while back. But you've got all these people who don't necessarily, or never necessarily had a kingdom before, but are suddenly rising to power. And I've always wondered if Macron and Trump and maybe Mohammed bin Salman and maybe some others, that they are 10 political outsiders that will be kings of nations or kingdoms in the end times. Particularly with Macron, some interesting things about him is that some French newspapers have essentially said that he is like Jesus. This other French newspaper has compared him to the Roman god Jupiter. So lots of very strange occult symbolism. But again, this bromance, so to say, yes, I do believe it's probably attributed to the fact that they've all held hands together and struck Syria, which again, a lot of prophecies surrounding Damascus. But I think there's something spiritual going on. I think there's something spiritual in the effect that these two individuals, and more than likely others that will follow suit after them, are going to find commonality in that they want to merge church and state, all fulfilling the wishes of Pope Francis. Curious what your thoughts are on this, but that's how I see it. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness. God bless.